Oh, hey everyone. Cheers and happy hour Friday. Kasia, it's so great to see you. I'm going to introduce everyone to you in just a moment. I'm hoping that you're enjoying your Pinot Grigio that we just poured together a few minutes ago. I know, I'm sure am.
I ended up with the red. My bad.
Where'd the Pinot Grigio go? Did someone steal it already?
No, it's in the other glass. I have two glasses. Go.
Okay, so Kasia is already in the mood, already double fisting wine over there. So I'm super excited to have her as our special guest tonight. As always, I'm Devin, your host for Virtual Vino. I'm a wine specialist for DMV Distributing, great local distributor of fantastic wines here in Maryland and the DC area. We have 4 super amazing wines for you to join in and taste with us tonight. The Il Casato Valdadige Pinot Grigio, the Casa Santos Lima Lab Vino Verde Rose, such a great summertime wine. The Antiche Terre, Venete, Amore, Assoluto. They should have added a couple more words to that one. And the Finca La Anita Luna Single Vineyard Malbec, which is one of my favorite Malbecs that we sell also. So I'm extremely happy to share all 4 of these amazing wines with you guys tonight. Like I mentioned, we do have a great guest with us tonight, Kasia White. She is a wine instructor at Capital Wine School. Several of us employees. Thanks, Steve. Got my floral with floral just for you, bud. And you know, Steve from Liquor Locker, he actually did a live video. I'm so proud at the beginning of the week. And he didn't wear a tie though. So I'm still going to give you grief about that, Steve. You know, I love you.
I know, but I'm not wearing a tie, so I'm okay with it.
It's okay. You're fine. You're balancing out my tie. You do have an awesome shirt on that you said that you would share later, but we don't want to.
I will.
We don't want to give away we'll get a couple wines into it, but before we share the awesome awesome shirt. But like I mentioned, Kasia's going to join us tonight. I'm so happy to have her with us. If you guys have your wines with you, go ahead and pour your fantastic Pinot Grigio. We had a couple of stores this week that carried all 4 of these great wines. So thanks to our participating stores and all of you for joining in and viewing tonight. It's going to be a little bit of a different show because it's going to be very fun as always, but also informative. So you're going to learn a lot tonight. Feel free as always to ask us any questions. Don't ask me questions tonight, actually. Give them all to Kasia because, you know, I just make stuff
I'm ready.
She's ready to go. She's already got 2 wines in her hands over there. But no, really, ask us any questions, comments throughout the evening. Hi, Joe. Cheers. Hi, Anna. Yeah. Now, Kasia, I know you have a great list of credentials as well. If you want to tell everyone about yourself before we get started tonight and a little bit about the Capital Wine School.
Would love it.
Awesome.
So in the meantime, anyone who hasn't had some Pinot Grigio, cheers to you. Go ahead and start up. No stress. Don't wait. It's Friday night. Enjoy the evening. So as Devin said, my name's Kasia. I am a wine educator with the Capital Wine School out of DC, which is currently virtual, live and online, as you know, many businesses are adjusting. So Capital Wine School is a place where basically you can learn about wine. You can be a passionate enthusiast, or you can be someone in the industry just wanting to kind of gear up and you know, get that much more confident about certain topics. It is one of the coolest places ever, I personally feel, but it's we have a motto, which is seriously fun wine education. So we want to take wine seriously, but have a lot of fun with it. The more you know, the more you can enjoy it. So no reason to be overly snooty or particular, just have a lot of fun, but learn something along the way. So Jay Yeomans, who is an MW, he is the director of the school. He is who started the school. We have been in the same location now for, I think, about 8 years. We have a couple of classrooms, which of course right now aren't in use, although we're using them to package samples for curbside pickup. So all of our classes are available these days online. Of course, we do certification courses. So the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, which is the program that I went through, all the way up to diploma, which is level 4. There is a level 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then beyond that, we have like fun classes. So intro to tasting. We have women winemakers. We have black wines. We have a variety of topics. Kind of every month we have a handful of classes scattered throughout the month. Sometimes it's wine business. Sometimes it's, you know, whatever kind of the mood strikes. So anything that you might be passionate about, chances are we're running a class on it. And if we're not, send me an email. I'll make one because it's absolutely, based on the desire that people have to learn and have fun and taste. So we would love to see any of you at one of our classes. If after this, you're just addicted to wine learning.
And you will be. I mean, let's be serious here. Now, Kasia, another thing I saw on the Capital Wine School website, and Jess and I were in all of it earlier. Remember, everyone, the big holidays are coming up. You actually have gift certificates for Capital Wine School, so you can actually purchase gift certificates, apparently, for your loved ones to take your classes.
Absolutely. And so prices on a class for like a one night. We did a really fun wine game night once upon a time. I should actually get in touch with Mercy and see if she wants to do another one virtually because we would have a blast. But yeah, the prices range for a one night class starting at, anywhere around $75 and going up from there. And we taste on those one night sessions, we could taste up to 10 or 11 wines. And then the certification courses, over the course of many weeks, you taste. So variety of price points, variety of options. And the whole point is just to learn and have fun. So for sure, we have gift certificates. You can do it in basically any monetary amount, and we can apply it to whatever course the person might be interested in. And of course, they can email and ask questions and figure out what they might like to spend those dollars on. And we will happily enjoy getting to know them over some virtual wine tasting.
I love it. Now, one thing to point out about Capital Wine School is that you are located in Northwest DC, correct? Physically.
Correct. Yeah, it's near the Friendship Heights Metro. So it's actually not super far from the Bethesda line. And we do have curbside pickup currently. And so super easy. You schedule your pickup time within kind of an hour block, and then you show up, you text, and the wine is delivered to your car, and you're out the door without, having to contact if you don't want to. So.
That's awesome. Now, I know, obviously, you can only send wines to certain states, etc. Do you offer classes to those outside the states? So those of you viewing from anywhere else, or you don't even want to drive to DC to pick up?
So, not officially, quote unquote, but we definitely have many people out of state that have, approached us. And so we do have shipping options for out of state as long as it's legal to those areas. It ranges in price based on the location. But I think the farthest that we've shipped, and it was like expedited shipping on purpose to avoid the weather, it was something like $50 for all of the materials, which, especially if you're out of state and you really want to get in for a class, that might be worth it. You get a lot of great wines. We definitely pre-screen all the wines. It's no stinker stuff, only good wines in those bottles. And they tend to hold for anywhere from, 3 to 5 weeks. And so we're really excited to have that option to pack them for you so you can pour them on your own.
That's perfect. So those of you that have family that you think would be interested in the classes, you can always email Capital Wine School. Obviously, even if you have ideas for wine classes, who knows? I'm always great at coming up with weird things like that. So I might be emailing you like this.
Please do, Devin. I'll happily accept your commentary.
Get out of here. But I am telling you that I am totally interested in the wine game night. We might even steal that idea. Did you trademark it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good.
But you can just as an aside when you play, say, hey, Capital Wine School kind of gave me this spin-off idea, and that'll be enough.
I will completely credit you in the future when we do. And obviously you're invited. So yeah, well, I mean, Capital Wine School is such a great place. Now, how did you get involved before we kick it off with our first wine here?
So when I was in college, I was really lucky to get the chance to study abroad in Paris. And I lived with a host family for a year while I was there. And my host father was a self-proclaimed wine connoisseur. And every night with dinner, there would be a glass of wine. Typically, it was red Bordeaux, so dry wine. And really before that, I had never spent that much time around wine. But I started having a small glass every night with dinner with the family to kind of bond with them and talk about it with them. And one thing led to another. And I had been in food and beverage before that. So I knew, a minor amount about wine, but I became very passionate about it very quickly based on kind of this bonding relationship with my host family. And then I guess I never looked back. I was in food and beverage, moving up to the management level when I came back to the States. And then the last, I guess it's been 8 years or so, I was in Virginia wine. And then I became a WSET certified educator about 6 years ago. And ever since, I've been teaching at the Capital Wine School. So sip of dry Bordeaux and you never look back.
I mean, that's the good stuff. How could you not? And I'm sure, having met quite a few French people, that very proud of their Bordeaux, it was the best wine in the world, correct? That's
I mean, at the time, I think it was. There was nothing for me to compare it to, and I enjoyed it. And I still enjoy Bordeaux a lot.
Gotcha. Well, unfortunately, we have no French wines this evening. However,
that's okay. I'm not offended.
With a really fantastic Italian Pinot Grigio. So if you have your glass, let's pour it. Those of you that are joining us, go ahead and pour your Casato Pinot Grigio if you haven't yet. I see one more question we will get to. Does the Capital Wine School rate the wines or rely on outside rating or a combo of the two? So I'm assuming the ones that you bring along
So the ones that we use for classes, I guess, is what you're probably asking about. So we could rate them, but officially we kind of don't until we taste with class. So we use a lot of samples from a variety of suppliers, trying to create the biggest wide range of options for students to expose them to as much as possible. Mm-hmm. But we do tend to lean towards, certain grape varieties, certain regions, especially at different levels, that are going to be kind of reliable, let's say, versions of what we're trying to show off in class. So when we're teaching, we're trying to show off certain characteristics for people to get used to those wines and kind of know what to expect. And so inevitably, we're going to kind of take from a pool of wines that we're all familiar with that drink well and consistently. When you get to a high level of tasting, then you taste everything and anything, doesn't matter what it's rated, and you're looking for kind of all of those pieces. But we do talk about quality when we talk about the wines, and we'll talk about that a little bit tonight too, as part of our kind of assessment on how to properly taste or taste like a pro. At the end of the day, you don't have to be professional to taste wine and enjoy wine. And really, it's all about if you like it. But if you have a basic understanding as to what you're looking for, you might be able to better assess what you're tasting and what you might be looking for and how you want to spend your dollars the next time.
Great answer. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get to it for our first glass of the Il Casato Pinot Grigio. I'll kick it off by saying I absolutely love the bottle of the Il Casato. It's one of the quickest to find in store because of the bottle shape and size. Still 750 milliliters, so don't worry. They're not jipping you with the small, short bottle. But fantastic marketing. Thank you. Thank you, Kasia. You're hired.
I'm going to be your Vanna while you're talking.
I absolutely love it. No one's done that yet. That was nice. So this wine is rated 96 points by Luca Maroni, a really fantastic wine reviewer and critic in Italy. It had a 3 out of 3 stars by Dave McIntyre in the Washington Post. We brought this wine in a few months ago, and I can tell you people absolutely love this Pinot Grigio. So year-round, an amazing Pinot Grigio. Drinking in the summer, obviously, you're going to grab that really nice white. 3 to 3 stars. I will read Dave McIntyre's review of this Pinot Grigio because it's probably one of my favorites of any of our wines that he's reviewed. So he says, racy and refreshing with a sense of energy that awakens the palate, this juicy wine is an ideal partner for salads, seafood dishes, or even that lazy quarantine lunch of canned sardines on crackers. Ugh. As I went to rate this, I realized I'd left the bottle about a third full, opened on the counter for at least 3 weeks. The wine was still fresh and delicious. So props to Dave for admitting that you left an open bottle of wine on your counter for 3 weeks and still drank it, first of all. But it was great to hear that it was still fresh and delicious. So, always try your wines before you throw them out, even if you left them on the counter. And but one of my favorite reviews from the Washington Post. So cheers and thanks for the ongoing support from them and our fantastic wines. So this Pinot Grigio was produced in the Valdadige DOC of Italy. Same as last week's Pinot Grigio, the Cinta, that was fantastic as well. But it is a really great wine brand there. And I think that it was it's probably one of my favorite Pinot Grigios that I've tried. Kasia, I know we're going to drink a little bit first before we get into the tasting notes about this wine. If you guys are drinking this with us, let us know what you're tasting, even what you're seeing with this wine. We always love to hear that as well.
So, me personally, I tend to not kind of dive for Pinot Grigio all the time. It's an every once in a while. I will enjoy it when it's presented to me, but it tends to not be something I like keep in large stock during quarantine. So what I will say is that it's exactly what you would expect out of Pinot Grigio, but one step better. And so from my personal experience, I taste a lot of wines, let's be honest. And sometimes Pinot Grigio can be a little bit mild-mannered, a little neutral, kind of one-dimensional. And this one has that pop for it that a lot of other wines don't have. And that is not using like WSET approved pro tasting terms. That's just being honest with you guys. There's something that's kind of jumping out of the glass, getting me a little bit more excited than your average Pinot Grigio. So I'm happy to taste with you, enjoy with you. And hopefully you're having as much fun with it as we are.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I noticed when I first tasted this Pinot Grigio was that most Pinots, I feel, just have a more of a dull pear taste to me, whereas this, similar to a Sauvignon Blanc, even in New Zealand, where just the pop of flavor immediately really gets in. It's very energetic upon drinking this wine. So I think especially on a hot summer
I love
day
that.
Porch,
energetic. I'm totally on board with that descriptor.
Yeah, us before the video dancing to the countdown, like this was me drinking it, and it kind of pumps you up. So I think that that's one thing to note about this wine, is that it's a fun wine to drink also. I mean, what wine isn't fun to drink? Let's be real. But this is also a really great fun example.
But, one other thing that's nice about it, especially when you're, when we talk about wine learning and wine education, there is a such thing as like too much learning. And sometimes you just want to sit back and relax and enjoy a glass of wine. And this is one that you very much can enjoy, and you don't feel like you have to talk a lot about. Like, people just enjoy it, drink it. Nobody's going to pour it out or be mad about it. And you just kind of, sit and relax. So hopefully other people are having that experience. What are you guys tasting out there?
I agree. Yeah, let's hear it. And I know, so Kasia, I don't know if you know or not, but when our stores participate in our virtual Vinos, we actually have tasting bags. So I hope you got one, but if you don't, we'll definitely hook you up. But they can fit 4 bottles. Virtual Vino there. It's now trademarked. So sorry, guys. Nobody can use Virtual Vino anymore except for DMV.
Love it.
But fits 4 bottles. I have fit 8. So great quality bags. But they also come with those great tasting sheets that Jess is showing us right now. So you can, it really leads you through the tasting of the wines, as well as the star ratings, depending on the color of the wine, the taste, etc. So it's really fun to get the 4 packs. When you guys see us post them on our Facebooks all week, even our personal pages, our Facebook page at DMV Dist, make sure you follow, and we'll let you know what stores carry all 4 of the wines. So we really appreciate those stores, as always, for supporting us and supporting these fun tastings, because it's not as fun if you only can find 1 or 2 of the wines. All 4 is
if you have to run around all day, it is probably not good for anybody.
Yeah, and I've definitely heard of some people doing it. So props to you all for making the effort. Now, we do talk a lot about food pairings with our wines, Kasia, and I think that one, honestly, to me, that was one of my favorite food pairings the last time I showed this wine was a cold cut sub, because it's
like an Italian?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
when in doubt,
sandwich,
whatever somebody's eating that would be from where the wine's coming from, that's like an easy fallback.
It'll go well. Exactly. I think this is my mom's fault. She wrote me earlier saying she would bring subs for lunch tomorrow. So this is Angela's fault.
You have to save some of this wine. What are you going to do? You can't drink the whole bottle tonight? Come on.
Yeah, I'll save some for them, I guess. We'll see where the night leads us. And the average price in store for this wine is only $12.99. So you're getting a 96-point rated wine, an exceptional rated wine from the Washington Post, only $12.99 in stores around Maryland or DC. So you can't lose with this wine, guys. Definitely go out and try yourself. I would get a few bottles, because once you drink 1 bottle, you will be sad that you don't have a backup, especially if you're sharing it with friends. You know, we bring that one bottle to a friend's house and then it disappears and you didn't bring a second bottle. I've never gone to
you just have to complain about the glasses being broken. They just can't stay filled. Whose fault is that?
Completely. Yeah. So never take only one bottle to a friend's house. If you learn anything from tonight, and Kasia's going to teach you guys a lot, the number one thing is take more than one bottle of this Pinot Grigio to your friends.
And my friends who are watching can attest to the fact that I never arrive only one bottle in hand. Usually it's quite a few.
Mine would say exactly the same thing. I was at a store yesterday and we were talking about how wine specialists or educators, I feel like we're a lot like nurses in some respects, where say if you have a cut or a weird mark on your stomach, you're in something like that, you're immediately like, hey, you know, it's like somebody who owns a truck. You always bug them for their truck because you need help out. Whereas we're the wine people. So if you have a dinner party, oh, Devon's got the wine. Like, I'm not even getting it. She's got that. Or if you go out to dinner, so what should I order? So, you know, it's definitely like that. Not saying, you know, we're nurses or anything, but we will nurse your belly with good wine.
True.
So,
and your soul as a result.
And your soul, your heart and soul. So we'll take care of you guys. But yeah, that was just kind of a funny thing. Speaking with Janet at Firefly yesterday about that. So Kasia, I know during class you speak a lot about food pairings as well. Before we move on to our second wine, what would you pair with this Pinot Grigio?
So I definitely would go for seafood appetizers, something like seared scallops, steamed mussels, steamed clams, maybe a shrimp cocktail. And then I agree with Dave. I would go very friendly with salads on this wine. Any of the salads, even with like a goat cheese crumble and beets underneath, I think would be marvelous. Yeah, any of that.
That sounds great. All right, guys. Well, we are going to move on to our second wine of the evening, the Casa Santos Lima Lab Vino Verde Rosé. And this time we are going to talk to you a little bit after my description about, for starters, what a Vino Verde is, because it does not mean green grape. Times on our virtual vinos, but for those of you that don't know, we'll definitely give you guys a heads up about that also. Now, a quick note, you'll see these things on my wines. If you see these in your stores around Maryland or DC, it just means that they are going to be featured or they have been featured on a previous virtual vino. We are up to over 30 shows since all of quarantine started. So we've done every Friday night. Thank you. I know. And they've been so much fun. We've had such great guests, Kasia included. There's instructions on the back about how to watch previous shows, what time it is. You know it, every Friday night at 7 p.m. We've only strayed a couple times, usually for holiday reasons, etc. But
I thought you were going to say because you drank too much before class started or something.
No, that's for like during and after class.
Got it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to postpone because the host is on the floor, guys.
Just silly stuff.
It could happen. So I absolutely love Casa Santos Lima. They're a great winery located in Portugal. For those of you that love your Portuguese wines, this is an absolutely great example of a Vino Verde from that DOC. And the Lab brand is very versatile. It's always, all of their wines are really fresh and light wines that you can share with just about anyone, whether you like dry or sweet. They're great, fantastic wines to drink and share with your friends. And this is not an exception. It's a three grape blended wine. Vino Verde, like I mentioned, does not mean the green grape. It's just from the DOC, which is a production area in Portugal.
An appellation is the fancy name. Yeah. Just a geographically identified place known for making wine.
Yes. And usually these Vino Verdes, they're made to be drank early. So these wines, they're drank 3 to 6 months after they're harvested. So obviously, like any of your screw tops, I always say when people say what's the difference between corked wine and your twist offs are supposed to be drank now. You can age your corked wine. That's usually how it goes.
I always used to joke that the screw caps are so that you can sneak them into a movie theater, but nobody goes to the movies anymore. So
yeah,
You can
I
come
mean,
into any place that you then won't need a wine opener.
I say that and then I always have a wine opener on me. But exactly, if you don't want to bring your wine opener along, that's what they're for. Just put in your coat. Remember,
Quick and easy.
Out of your coat. Exactly. So I know, Kasia, you're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to taste through this wine the professional way.
Right. So now that we've had a few sips, maybe you've had a glass or two, no judgment, enjoy your wine. Hopefully you're safely at home. Disclaimer before I get any further, I may contain wine. So just be cautious, I guess. Don't believe everything you hear. But there is a such thing as a professional way to taste, the right way to taste. And to be clear, tasting doesn't have to be snooty. It doesn't have to be snotty. You don't have to have your nose up to do it. What you really are trying to do is figure out what you like. You can't figure out what you like if you don't remember what you had the night before. So a lot of times when we're tasting, we're taking notes. So even just like the cards that you got with your virtual Vino pack, where it has the star markers and you don't even have to take any notes, just mark off how many stars you think the wine earned, right, in each category. When you stop and think about it for even just an extra minute or two when you're kind of enjoying this wine, tasting is about figuring out that stuff so that you know where to spend your dollar the next time. So when you properly taste, you're going to pour a small amount in your glass. Anywhere from 1 to 2 ounces is the normal amount. So my glass, you can see kind of below the bend in the glass is where I've poured. And this is on purpose in preparation for tasting, not consuming. That doesn't mean I won't consume, but it means that at this moment, I'm first going to try to just take a closer look and evaluate a little bit about this wine. So then the first thing that we do is look at it, which seems silly. Obviously, you can see it. You can see us on virtual Vino, right? But what we're doing is trying to take a closer look at the color. One day, in maybe the far future, maybe the near future, depending on where you are in your wine tasting career, you're going to want to blind taste. You're going to want someone to pour something for you and you to guess what it is. But you want to be educated so that you do a good job guessing instead of a bad job. The first thing that you look at is the color, and it can give you hints as to what it could be or could not be. The more you taste, the more you figure out this kind of deductive reasoning plan to go through your wine and figure out what it cannot be based on what it's showing you in the glass. So the first thing is you look. The proper way to look is hold the glass on a diagonal. So I'm obviously in front of my camera on my computer, but ideally you would hold it against a white background so that you can isolate the color by itself. I'm obviously wearing a shirt that has red color tone, so the wine's going to look more red if I don't isolate that glass. And then I'm going to look through the glass on a diagonal so that I'm taking the stem out of my line of sight, just so I can see through the glass itself. And I'm going to just isolate the color tone, right? At this level, you might just want to say, okay, it's rosé, done, moving on. So then we go to sniff. So when you go in to smell the wine, you can simply in there, but then you would swirl. So this is usually easier on a hard surface, which I guess you can't see, something like that. You can also test your dexterity if you want, which I always like to test, although I'm somewhat of a risk taker with my left hand over my computer, but you're swirling purposefully to allow oxygen to interact with this glass. When you leave it just steady, you have surface area of, let's say, 2 to 3 inches in diameter where oxygen's interacting. There are aromatic compounds here in the glass that need the oxygen to come alive, to wake up. So when you swirl, you're changing the surface area, you're accelerating a little bit of oxygen interaction. So then when you go to smell, you'll probably be able to smell more. And when you smell, that's when you start thinking, what am I tasting? What am I going to get ready to have? Is it strawberry? Is it lemon? And sometimes things come to mind immediately, and sometimes it's easier if someone says them first, or if you have a list of things that are suggestions. When you go to shops, or sometimes you see on the back label, there's often notes about what you probably will taste. It's just guidelines that you can think in your mind, oh, okay, probably I'm going to smell strawberries, cherries, raspberry, maybe a little bit of pink grapefruit, right? So then you start thinking about that stuff, and then you go into sip. And when you go in to taste the wine, you take a sip, and then you might do all the things that people do in movies you might have heard of, but maybe you don't do because you're a little nervous, a little tentative. But go ahead and try it. You're safe at home or safe with friends and family. What you're going to do is swish the wine like mouthwash. Breathe in while the wine's in your mouth and kind of send messages straight to your olfactory nerve. And then also chew the wine. So it might look like this. And then I'm spitting, because when I taste, I typically spit so that I can really get a sense for this wine without the consumption bothering me, right? In terms of my brain power. So I give every part of my palate a chance to taste this wine, to interact with what it's going to show me. And I think about things. Do I taste the same things that I smelled? Do I feel a lot of acid or tannin, different components that come out of wine you may have heard of, you may never have considered further, but acid has this like mouth-watering interaction, a little bit of like a zinging sensation on the bottom front half of your palate. So this wine, I get that acid, but I also get a hint of that effervescent character, which I absolutely, to die for, love about Vino Verde. This particular region really highlights that barely effervescent. It's on purpose. It's not a mistake. That's how they like to produce their wine. So it's that much more refreshing, that much more exciting, that much more, to take a line from Devin earlier, energizing. But this wine, I think, is an awesome example of what Vino Verde Rosé has to offer. Very pleased.
I'm glad. I know earlier you mentioned that you liked it as well. Now, to recap on that, Kasia went over the 5 S's. So for those of you, once again, it's see, swirl, sniff, sip, and savor. I mean, obviously the savor's like the best part, let's be real, but that's your 5 S's. So remember that when you're at home tasting. Obviously, Kasia has such a great description of how to taste. That's how we're going to taste the following wines. Now, we were talking earlier about WSET and how, especially you at Capital Wine School, you're an instructor there, and the different levels. So obviously the different levels have what they call lexicons of wine tasting. I know we have a picture, for example, of the level 1 lexicon there. So
we talk about color, aromas, and then we talk about things on the palate. So just like I was talking with you guys, things that you taste, things that make you think something specific. And as you progress to each different level, should you choose to kind of dive in, level 1's kind of an appetizer, right? Then you see the level 2, we have that many more potential vocabulary words, but then we also have different things that we're assessing. So we actually try to measure sweetness, acid, alcohol, body, tannin, etc. And as you go through, the level 2 is kind of an intermediate. The level 1's more of a novice or beginner. Level 3 after that is more of an advanced. And then, and so here you'll see that many more potential options, not just for vocabulary used as descriptors for smells and tastes, but also assessment levels in the palate, measuring certain things, development, the intensity of the flavors, etc., the quality, and whether or not it's ready to be consumed at this time. And then level 4, should you choose to go, that much further, the diploma level, that is considered, I would argue, expert or superior. And that is the last prerequisite should you opt to go for the master level. So master of wine level diploma is a requirement before going that far. That's, by the way, not for everybody, but anyone that even is just an enthusiast, not an industry professional. We have folks that continue on all the way through all the levels simply because they're passionate and excited about the learning. And sometimes when you learn so much and you realize there's so much more to learn, you just get excited about it. If you have that attitude about wine, then WSET is for sure up your alley, because the truth is, no matter how much you know about wine, there's always more to know.
Definitely. Now, one cool thing that I noticed about the app So I think that one thing, we're talking about when you do your tasting notes, WSET also has a really great app. It is Android friendly and iOS friendly as well. So I think that one cool thing about that is that you can actually record your tasting. So even if you're out at a restaurant or you're doing a blind tasting, they have a blind tasting mode, which is super fun on there that I've played with. But it's something to really even play around with your friends, see what they think of wines. But it leads you through that entire lexicon, like Kasia just went over, to really go over your wine as you're drinking your wine. Okay, did I really like that one? Or what would I have paired it with, etc. Do you use that by chance?
Me?
Personally?
So I have,
Okay.
I don't lately. The truth is a lot of the tasting that I do in class, whether it's at level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, I tend to guide it more specifically to my students rather than kind of go through, but I definitely have used the app. And I think it's a fantastic tool for people looking to catalog basically in a digital age, right? Being able to have everything at your fingertips. So there's a whole bunch of apps out there, Vino, whatever it might be, to figure out what you're tasting, when you're drinking, whatever it is. But an app like the WSET app has, which is, by the way, a free download, really helps you kind of collect that information and just you can go back and quickly review. So I agree. I think it's an awesome tool. Whether or not you decide to take any of the classes, it's just a fun addition to your everyday wine tasting career.
Yeah. I mean, whether for personal use or, for example, if you work at a restaurant and or bar and you do get new wines in and you want to be able to speak about what you thought of the wine. Obviously, I taste so many wines similar to Kasia, and I just think that, okay, if I can go back, look at that wine, if someone asks you, well, what did you think of that? Let me see. Did I like that over this other rosé? If you have multiple. So definitely, even if you work at a restaurant, bar, as well as your personal use, download those apps. They're really great. I've used them. I know quite a few of my restaurants and bars also really love them when I point that out. It's super user friendly and just, like you explained, it walks you basically through how you're actually going to taste the wines also, which is really helpful.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Joe, that the WSET wine game is also an app. And it's super also, I think it's fun. It's really a lot of geography oriented stuff, which sounds crazy, but anyone who has studied wine knows that it's not so secretly studying geography as part of the mix. But one of the things I really love about WSET, so, there's a number of different education venues out there. And I would argue that really there's no wrong way to study wine as long as you're putting some effort in. But when it comes to wine education systems, that's what I teach. That's what I really support. And primarily it's because of the systematic approach to learning, creating a system and a routine so that you really feel comfortable with identifying the different pieces. So whether it's the WSET wine game, whether it's the WSET wine app, I think they're really friendly to use to make you feel like you know more about wine and remind you that you actually do know more than you think you do. But sometimes you simply forget in the moment. You taste wine, you talk about wine, you think of, you're with friends and whatever it might be. And then a week later, you're like, shoot, did I have that wine? Did I care about that wine? Who knows? And really quickly, you can go back and see how you felt about it.
Exactly. I mean, the same thing happens to me just as I sit here. I've drank this wine 100 times and I'm like, I don't know. I haven't tasted it yet. What did that one taste like? Did I really like this one? I like them all, but exactly. So it's definitely really, really great resources from WSET as well to document even your progression of learning about wine, having fun while learning. And like we mentioned earlier, you can never know too much about wine. You're never going to know all of it. So
Never.
have fun. And exactly, at least while you're drinking wine, you're going to have fun learning about wine. So that's what we're here for on Friday nights with Virtual Vino. Now, I will say, getting back to the wine that we're drinking now, I love that you love the effervescence of this also. It's just a little bit bubbly, which is really nice. And like you mentioned, very energizing as well. So between this and the Pinot Grigio, absolutely fun summertime wines to drink. And they're great for people that like sweeter wines or dry wines. I think they're both really well balanced so that everyone can enjoy these wines. Like we mentioned earlier, if you go to your friend's house, you're like, oh, make sure you take at least 2 bottles over with you. But they're not mad about either of these wines. Maybe 2 of each, guys, which is always good to know. you're going to feel really bad if you show up with a bad bottle of wine. So you can't go wrong with these. The Lab Vino Verde as well. We mentioned the Washington Post with the Il Casato. This was also recently rated by the Washington Post as well. I know we have a picture up to show you. And this wine is only an average of $10.99 a bottle in store around Maryland or DC. So yeah, again, another affordable, great wine. Yeah, there you go, Vanna. And of course, if you're a dog lover, the bottles are always fun to make crafts with afterwards. I can't tell you how many people, even my coworkers that have labs, that take pictures with their dogs and or their labs with the bottle. So it's a fun winery, really great people, and high quality wine for a great price. And I love this label as well.
What a salesperson, Devin. You can't say no to Devin. It looks like everybody's going to be buying Lab tomorrow.
Yeah, go out and buy it. It's supposed to be a really nice weekend. So go out and buy a few bottles of the Lab. Now, upon that, they do have a Lab Red. They have a Moscato. They have a regular Rosé, not the Vino Verde. They really have a really great variety of different wines with the Lab brand from Casa Santos, Lima. So go support that winery. Portugal wine, absolutely fantastic. You can't go wrong. So without ado, who has questions for Kasia? I'm excited to see what questions we have tonight. I know some of your friends are watching. I see a few of mine, some coworkers, perhaps some people that have taken your classes before, which is so fantastic. Thanks everyone for joining us. We have two more wines. Everyone. So definitely ask away. If you have any wine question at all, I'm sure that you cannot stump us. We will definitely drink more wine and make something up if need be. I mean, we've done it before.
I try not to. To be truthful, there are things I don't know, but usually when I don't know, I will admit it and say I will look it up and get back to you. Because
let me rain check.
The truth is there's so much misinformation about wine. I try really hard to not spread anymore. And that's not to say that anybody's perfect. And in the moment, sometimes you say something and you might not even mean it or might not realize that you're not telling the truth. Mm-hmm. But with wine, where people are, overly snooty, overly particular, overly confident, as much as I like to have fun, I also like to only tell things that for sure are true to the best of my ability. So.
I just got a text from Greg. So Greg works for our importer, Trivin. Hi, Greg. Nice to see you. Apparently you're watching Bud. He wrote me, oh, she spit the wine out. So quick thing on that. He's like, she spit out.
No, so I whenever I'm tasting, I spit everything. And that doesn't mean that I didn't go back to my next sip and actually consume it. But I guess I'm so conditioned after years and years of teaching and being a student also of wine always, that when I taste, I am purposefully spitting so that I'm really making sure that I don't miss something based on my a little alcohol boost in the second. There are times where, no joke, I've tasted 60 or 80 wines in one day. And there's no way you can do that getting crunk one glass at a time. So in order to do it at my best, I'm going to spit part of the portions. I know how much I can kind of take a sip here and there and enjoy, but so I see a question there. How many Vino Verdes Rosés have you tried before, and how does this rate compare to others? So Vino Verde Rosé is kind of an awesome category because it's relatively new to the market. The truth is they only started producing them in the 80s. It's only about 30 years old, this whole piece of the market. So Vino Verde has been making wine for a lot longer, but they only started making rosés specifically to start to compete with the rest of the international world, making all of these dry rosés. This one is like borderline off dry, right? It has just like a touch of sugar. Most people wouldn't even notice, but it's extremely consistent with what I've tasted in others. However, I think the balance in this one is better than even one I had 2 or 3 days ago. I think the grape selection is really particular to making sure that the wine is having the right amount of acid so that you don't feel like a cloying, syrupy stuff in the back of your throat. Some of them can taste really like overly candied, overly kind of juicy. This one, I think, has just the right combo of like fresh, very ripe strawberry, very ripe raspberry, but then that kind of citrus fallback. So you get a really nice dichotomy of that acid and barely sweet character. I would argue that this is outstanding. I think it's why wouldn't I have more of it? Sorry, sorry you were offended that I spit in your wine. It was.
I don't think he was offended. He was just messing with us. But I mean, and that's your conditioning. Obviously, you, like you mentioned, you try so many different wines, especially as you're educating. Your classes are different than virtual vino, where I can sit and drink. I'm not going to spit it out, even as the host, because I'm here to have fun. So by the end of the video, if I'm like giggling, tough. Like that's what you guys are doing at home, you know. But as a professional, of course, that's what you're going to do. Some of these wine critics as well, I love following them on Instagram, and you'll see a room with thousands of wines, and I'm like, oh, I hope you're spitting that out. Obviously, you know, they do, but before, for your liver and, you know, driving home, etc., that's what you do. Oh, here we have another question for you.
Yeah, I'm looking. So, speaking about geography, are the fires out west forecast to impact grape crops and therefore wine this year? Is 2020 killing our wine, or is it going to make some of it have a hint of smoke? So, many years there is this issue. So it depends on the place, but you know, whether it's Australia, California, anywhere on kind of the West Coast, we tend to lately, especially last, I don't know, 5-6 years, have a lot of fire issues. So this time of year is when people are harvesting. So it's actually one of the worst times, if you, I guess, could pick a better or worse time to have fire nearby. But that smoke in the air 100% will taint wine. Grape skins are semi-permeable. They have microscopic holes, and so they absorb what's in their surrounding environment. There are methods in the winemaking that you can use to try to mitigate that impact, but it's really hard to remove all of it. So it's possible that people might make more white wines or more rosés using less of the skin interaction if they're really having a problem with this, because it's really kind of the skin itself holds on to stuff and kind of immediately under the skin. So when you make white wine or rosé, you can separate from the skins a lot earlier. You don't have to soak with all of that flavor to get the color development. So it's possible that some people will be making different things. I don't think it'll kind of, well, I mean, 2020 is kind of miserable for everything, right? So add wine to the list, but I don't think it's going to, you know, necessarily put anybody out of business, but it will take some educated winemaking decisions to make sure they're putting out a product that they're proud of.
Yeah, and I know we sell quite a few wines from California, so our hearts got to them. Hopefully they're okay. I know we were speaking about Paris Valley Road last week. We featured one of their wines, and they kind of rushed into harvest for a few varietals that they didn't necessarily want to harvest yet. But as it may be, like you mentioned, you know, you kind of want to get the grapes out and, you know, be making wine right away with them so that, you know, perhaps that taint doesn't happen as bad or at all. So, you know, hopefully still some good wine from California this year, and, you know, hopefully they're all okay. But great question though. Absolutely. Oh, I see Jess here. Do you know how many acres have burned? I feel like that goes up every day at this point, unfortunately. Not quite sure about that one.
Yeah, you know, that's a good question. I can't say. Truthfully, I could find out probably pretty easily, but I don't want to give you any wrong information off the top of my head. So that's something we can get back to. Yeah, too many is absolutely too many.
One is too many, but yeah, definitely too many for sure. All right. So with that, great questions, guys. Keep them coming. Send us your comments. We're going to move on to two amazing reds this evening. Now, this first red that I have for you, a 92-point rated wine from James Suckling. One of my favorite reds that we have. Really great, fun bottle. If you're having an anniversary, a party, anything for your special someone, and or Netflix on your couch and you just want to treat yourself, look no further. Now, the Antiche Terre, they're an organic winery as well. This is an organic wine. I think that one thing, especially about the label with this wine, it's produced nearby Verona, Italy. Obviously, Verona, Italy, known for their art, their opera, Shakespeare. Of course, you know, this wine basically just has it all. Like, ta-da, you know, basically a nice romance. Like I mentioned, one of my favorite.
Amore.
Yeah. Amore, Assoluto. Love this wine. You'll love this wine. I guarantee you. Now, said earlier about how, it's a great wine to decant. So I know that you opened your bottle about an hour before the show as well, along with me, because the flavors of this wine, like we're going to share with you guys later, they really open up. So we're going to get into that in just a second. 92 points from James Suckling. This was also featured in the Washington Post as well. So we're 3 for 3 basically now. So shout out to Washington Post.
Good selection
for
tonight.
the wines. I know, just for you. We didn't want to have you spitting the wines out or anything. Too soon. But no, so Dave McIntyre's, this is also one of my favorites. Usually I don't read his reviews on air like this, but I absolutely love this one as well. He says, hopeless romantics can dial up Dean Martin on Spotify and twist the screw top off a bottle of Amore Assoluto. Yeah. A juicy, delightful Italian red wine from Italy's north near Venice with a shiny red heart dominating the label. It's $13. So like mentioned, the average price is $12.99 in your stores. It's cheaper than a ticket on Antiche. So, this wine itself, a really great wine. We're going to dig into it. The grapes in this wine, the Corvina, Merlot, and Syrah. Like I mentioned, hand-harvested grapes. The wine's organic. And we'll get to tasting it. Do not look at my glass, though, guys. I just moved so I could find the gray glasses. So this is not what the wine looks like. So don't pay attention to me. Look at Kasia's wine. That's what it looks like.
So, I poured a small sample. I'm looking diagonally through the deepest part of the glass. I'm taking a look at the color tone. And of course, it's red, right? Let's not be silly about it. But it has this kind of juicy red undertone with just a hint starting to go barely orange along the rim. So like fancy pants wine talk, we'd call that garnet. And that's really a pretty typical thing for that grape Corvina. That's the main grape in here. It's the same grape that's used in the region of Valpolicella. So if you're familiar with that region, that place name, that is the wine, it's where they make Maroni. So all of that. So that same place features this same grape as, here in the Amore. And so I'm looking at it. I'm thinking about that grape. I'm anticipating bright red cherry flavors. Merlot and Syrah starting to go into some of the black fruits as well. And so I'm just sniffing, I'm swirling, I'm starting to think about this wine. I'm getting hints of that kind of light wood character, a little bit of vanilla and kind of sweet baking spices. And again, that starting to go into that inky dark fruit. And then I'm going to taste. And of course, being our first red of the night, you start to get that tannin grip, right? That dry mouth character, especially on the inside of your lips. But it is not too potent. It's not too strong. It's not bitter. It's a really soft, almost like velvety version. It's kind of like you have, if you were tasting velvet, think of what it feels like. It's soft, it's supple, it's kind of romantic, like Amore, right? But I get this great combination of fruit-oriented flavor plus a little bit of a slight earthy undertone. That kind of mulch that you're putting on your plants these days, the mushrooms a little bit, and all of that's coming from really gentle, slow wood aging, a little bit of oxygen interaction over the course of the aging time. The organic component of this wine is really great, especially for those of you that find you're sensitive to any of those kind of histamines or components that show up in the finished product. An organic wine has no synthetic use of anything. So yes, they have sprays and stuff, but it's all kind of naturally occurring in the world. So they're able to prevent negative impact, but then give you a wine that is less likely to give you any sort of allergic reaction. The rosy cheeks, or, every once in a while folks get headaches from certain wines. So this one would be one that you wouldn't have to worry about that stuff, which is also really great. Add it to the list of kind of bonuses of this really nice, it's kind of middle of the road, not too heavy, great fall wine. It's starting to get cooler. You want something just a touch richer. Then a lot of people drink Pinot Noir all summer long. This is one that easily segues into the fall and winter.
Now, she was saying I could sell this wine. Look at that. You just sold me on this wine. Hands down. You're gonna accidentally spit your wine out. I'm sorry. No, I completely agree with you. And like I said, I decanted my wine. So shout out Barry. I finally used the decanter that you gave me months ago. Cheers. This was my I did not save the wine glasses from being packed like under everything when I moved into my new house. But the decanter was set up on the fridge safely. So thanks, bud. But I see Joel mentioned there the velvet taste to this wine. It is really silky. And along with the label, we actually released this right before Valentine's Day. Go figure. And we were like, oh, perfect marketing for it, obviously. But no matter the marketing of this wine, it's an all year, everyday wine. So obviously the bottle, you can't go wrong with getting it for a special celebration. But this is a wine that you can drink every day and you're going to be really pleased with it. Not to mention this wine pairs with a lot of different foods. So I saw someone earlier was eating pizza. That's also one of them, you know, those basic foods to go with it, especially now if you have kids and the kids are home and you want to make something quick. This wine also really great for that.
So Joel, yeah, I see your question about maybe a slight chill and the industry standard. So the truth is red wines are supposed to be served at room temperature, but room temperature is designated as a lot cooler than you might think. It's about 59 to 64 degrees Fahrenheit. And most of us live in like a 70 plus degree world. I absolutely agree, especially Corvina based wines like Valpolicella or any of your ones that are like borderline lighter bodied for the reds. I myself tend to drink them at cellar temperature, around 55 degrees. I have a wine fridge, and so I kind of pull them directly out of the wine fridge and drink them. If I didn't have a wine fridge, I would encourage you to put it in the fridge for 15, 20 minutes in your food fridge before you're ready to drink it, and that'll accomplish the same thing. And I 100% support that decision.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. We mention all the time, especially during the hot summer months, don't be afraid to chill your reds at an appropriate temperature because like you mentioned, your room temperature, and here you can tell mine's quite hot, but if I turn the AC on, you're not going to be able to hear me. I'm going to be yelling at you guys. But yeah.
You could open your window. I think it's like 45 degrees out tonight.
You know, I would do that, but I'm surprised that my cats haven't attacked me yet. And if the window's open behind me or anywhere around me, they will attack it. If you notice, I was distracted a bit earlier. There was a huge WWE fight in front of my table. So I just wanted to make sure they didn't knock all of this onto me.
Hilarious.
So we've learned probably lock the cats up. Beginner's mistake in the new house. Maybe they get in the bedroom. Yeah, I see you guys. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions about the Amore Assoluto, let us know. Let us know if you have it and you're drinking it along with us, if you've had it before. I can tell you we also sell a really fantastic Maroni from this winery that is to die for. Steve, if you're still watching, I know you got a bottle recently, so let me know if you opened it yet and tried that too. If you guys have any questions for Kasia about anything dealing with wine, let us know.
Thanks, Ryan, for your note. Oh, and hi to Rich.
Hi, Rich. Cheers.
And so for any of you guys just recently tuning in, also, I don't think we mentioned any pairings for the lab before this, and then also for the Amore here. So the lab you should pair with a summer afternoon.
Or Devon Valley.
Or truthfully, you could go super simple, you know, any cheese platter, any meat platter for sure would work. If you're going into the meal and you're trying to think, what is that going to go with? Rosé is really food friendly, and that one has enough acid that it really can carry through into the entree with chicken dishes or seafood dishes. With the Amore, you know, when in doubt, always think, what are they eating where this comes from? I could always try that. So Italian-based items, whether it's an Italian sub, like Devin's mom was saying, or, you know, I think pizza would be great, but really any pasta dishes with those red sauces. I'm picturing eggplant parmesan, or chicken parmesan, or, you know, a cacciatore style dish would be awesome with like the tomato base plus the olives and capers, kind of that salty, in addition to the tomatoes, I think would be marvelous.
Those all sound great. Now you made me hungry.
That's how it goes with wine.
That's absolutely, yeah. It goes hand in hand.
It does not patent, but that's a good question. So, you might think because it's less quote unquote preserved, but in fact, it has the same shelf life. It's primarily based on the grapes that are kind of designating. And so, certain grapes will have natural preservatives, acid and tannin, that'll help the wine last longer. And so, of that mix, Corvina has really high acid, and Syrah has both high acid and tannin. So, it would have plenty of characteristics to hold it for at least 10 years, if not 15 easily, as long as it's in good condition. So cool, constant temperatures, on its side laying down without too much dramatic light or motion.
I have a question for you. So for those viewers that are watching, whether they're wine experts.
Glad you're liking it, Joe. Sorry, I'm listening, Devin.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah. Thanks, Joe. And Paul's in Washington, D.C. Cheers to them. One of our great
They're right downstairs from the wine school. So if you know where Paul's is, you know where the wine school is. It's in the same building on the 3rd floor.
So you have no excuse to go take some classes and then go down to Paul's, visit the guys, get some really delicious wine. There you have it. Now, question I had was if you could give advice to anyone that wants to become more knowledgeable about wine, what is the first thing that you would tell them to do?
Have an open mind. Is the first thing I would say. A lot of times you get into wine and you're either overly fearful in that, like, you don't know enough. Should I take a class? I'm going to be embarrassed. Or the other way around, you're overly confident that, like, oh, I've learned a couple of things. I'm going to ace it. And what I would argue is that simply just go in with a completely open mind, taste everything. No, you're not going to like everything, but that's the point. That's the fun about wine. If you find something that you love and somebody else doesn't, guess what? You don't have to share. Yay, you get your own bottle. And so, sorry, I'm just seeing that question from Holly. So absolutely, you could pair this with a steak. Do I think it's the best option for a steak? Maybe not. It depends on the cut of meat. This wine doesn't have super hearty, gripping tannin. And usually that's, that might be more for the Malbec that we're going to have in a minute, actually. I do think the Amore can go with red meat, and for sure you could try it. And there's no reason not to try it. I think I would probably lean into your more braised meats, like slow cooked, kind of fall off the bone style, rather than a hearty, meaty steak. But try it, Holly, and let us know if you like it. Definitely, there's no judgment. Pairing is as much a kind of working off of food and wine chemistry as it is a subjective thing. You might love it and then be happy about it. There's no one that can tell you it's wrong. But then in terms of learning, if you're going that much farther, when you have that open mind, then just read as much as you can and listen everywhere. There are tons of resources out there, some good, some bad, but any information that you start to absorb, you'll kind of figure out what things make sense, what things are logical, and then ask for help when you can from people that know and people that are fun and friendly like me and like Devin, and people that are out there, because there's a lot of us that are not snooty about wine and want people to know and enjoy knowing. And you find those people, the Capital Wine School, we're one big seriously fun wine education family. So whether it's us or any other resource, we're open to discussion and hanging out and talking wine. And so just dive in, get out there. And now more than ever, you're stuck at home. What else are you doing?
Exactly. Yeah. You're sitting with your cats. Like, I just got attacked by one. You're drinking wine with friends. Learn about it. Like we mentioned earlier, once again, you'll never know too much. And right now, what else have you got to do? You might as well learn about the best, alcoholic beverage in the world.
And if you're already addicted to learning, my next WSET level 2 class, so I'm teaching it, starts on October 1st. It's Thursday nights, 5 weeks. And then my next WSET level 3 class, if you're thinking, woo, watch out, I'm going for the advanced level, starts on Monday, October 5th. Although we do have some suggested prerequisites for that level 3. But feel free to kind of check the website, email questions. Kirsten, our admin's fantastic, or you can ask her directly for my information and she'll pass it along and we can chat that way.
Definitely. Yeah. And we'll post links, guys, on DMV's Facebook page as well. You can always contact the Capital Wine School also for information about upcoming classes. We have their website that we'll post for you guys right there. Also, So feel free. I mean, I've taken your course as well. It was so much fun. Absolutely loved. Even it was virtual and it was still a blast, so you did a great job. And it's so great to just learn about every single different thing, even at a virtual, in a virtual way still, we have to do
you never know what you're going to get when you're learning online, but we try our best, or I try my best to make it interactive, to make people have fun. And of course you're tasting wine, and big benefit, you don't have to drive anywhere, so you can drink it all if you want.
That was definitely the best part.
When you come to the school, unfortunately, you have to plan ahead and figure out, where you're going, if you're metroing or Uber or whatever. But when you're safe at home, you can drink it all and enjoy it, or, revisit them after class and whatnot. So
exactly. Or spit it out.
Or spit it if you're a professional.
Yes. All right, Kasia. Well, we are going to move on to our last wine of the evening. Thanks once again, everyone, for being here with us. If you guys have any more questions for either of us, please let us know. We are going to turn to Argentina now, Mendoza, Argentina. This Malbec, Richard Bovin was on with us a couple months ago as well, speaking about this wine. Thank you, Vanna. It is a fantastic wine as well. 91 points from James Suckling. 100% Malbec here. It's aged 1 year in French oak. I'm sure Kasia will want to speak a little bit about how oak fermentation also affects the taste of the wines as well, even the character and taste of the wine, perhaps even the look of the wine, etc. But Mendoza, Argentina, home of the Malbec, for sure. And this label, it's one of my favorites. I think this is also a really great fall time looking label as well, the Luna. And it's a great wine, guys. So we're going to pour it. We're going to drink it. Hopefully you guys have a bottle of this to end your Friday night off with. Obviously, if you have all four, you have 4 bottles of wine open. So, drink your reds in the evenings, and then your Rosé
in the first half of the day.
Your Pinot Grigio while you're doing laundry tomorrow. Yeah.
And I just, before we get too deep into the wine, I want to just shout out to my friends who are watching who have a daughter named Luna. You know who you are.
Aww.
So this wine is extra special to you guys.
That's adorable.
But so, talking back about oak that Devin was mentioning. So when you think about wood and wine, you probably think about oak barrels. And oak is one of those things that is used on purpose to accomplish certain characteristics. So can be baking spices, can be things that are related to earth. So like mushroom, wet woods, the char, kind of sawdust, leather, any of those things can come from wood, and it depends on how new the barrels are, how big the barrels are, and how much they're cooked, or what we call toasted in wine. And so there's also this concept of microscopic amounts of oxygen coming in and out of the barrel, and that's what happens with the aging or the fermentation, where you have interaction with oxygen that's controlled and slow. And that helps to make the wine a little bit more round in your mouth, and a little bit more of that velvety texture we were talking about with the previous wine. That's something that over time will happen based on oxygen interaction, or controlled oxygen interaction. So this wine, you probably can start to tell if you're looking at the color, it's a lot richer, darker, deeper, and is starting even to have a little bit of blue reflection, almost like a purple undertone. It's a super pretty color, very typical of Malbec from Argentina to go almost purpley. So, gorgeous, really attractive, vibrant color brings you in. So you go to smell and you're thinking about this wine, and it's showing off just a hint of that earthiness, but mostly it's that kind of violet flowers, the dark black fruit, almost maybe like black cherry, hint of blueberry, and not really like cooked fruit, just appropriately ripe. Whenever you're ready, of course, you already will have tasted. And so you can probably feel the texture of this wine. It's heavier, it's fuller, it's richer than the Amore. This is absolutely a fall into winter wine. Kind of, keeps you warm on a cold night. It has quite a bit more of that grip, quite a bit more of that mouth-watering stuff. So the acid, the tannin, the grip, and really does have that combo of the ripe black fruits plus a little bit of that obvious wood interaction. So the vanilla, the mulling spices, there's almost like you're kind of drinking a mulled wine, but you didn't have to do any work or heat it up. You get just that hint of all that stuff. It's a tiny bit warming in the throat. So alcohol is just a touch higher than some of the other wines tonight, but in a very pleasant, balanced way. This is, I think, a great example of what Malbec has to offer, especially from this region that is kind of pioneering this grape and is well known for this grape. Very pretty. And coming back to it, I get that much more of the kind of like dry stuff relating to earth. Your cat's getting into the wine, Devin. Be careful.
I'll admit, I'm glad I was in the background for the majority of it.
But it's like a hint of that almost like dry, cracking leather, super aged, in your family for generations. Tumbleweeds in the background. There's all these things that my brain is going to that are not like proper vocab for wine, but really pretty aromas, dried flowers, dried violets.
I was always taught that there's no wrong answer when tasting wine. But then I watched that movie, Wine Country on Netflix, and I feel like he says, I'm so sorry. They're just attacking everything I have. He said, oh, there's no wrong answer. And then she says, oh, shoe polisher, something else. And he goes, yeah, no, this wine tastes nothing like that. So,
Well, I would argue there's no wrong answer either. When we're teaching and we're kind of guiding towards an exam, ultimately, starting at level 3, there's a blind tasting component, but, there are things that we try to like hone in the vocab. So it's generally understood. But when you're just tasting for fun, it's virtual vino. We're having a nice time. Yeah. I'm going to throw in some randos because at the end of the day, there's about 200 to 300 aromatic compounds. I can't tell you all of them. You can't tell me all of them. Anyone out there could be smelling something that's there that just somebody else doesn't notice. So there really isn't a wrong answer. As long as it's personal to you, it'll speak to you in some way, hopefully in a good way. And if not, then you'll be able to figure it out and know that, okay, this grape's not for me or this region's not for me.
Definitely. Now, pairing with this wine, I think that it's also a pretty versatile Malbec to pair with, compared to some Malbecs that I have tried.
I think that's a safe bet. And to just take a quick aside, because I see Austin had a question with cranberry sauce. So I make my cranberry sauce with port. I don't know. I simply like that added kind of hint of sweetness. Then I can lessen the sugar added. I just use a ruby style port or a rosé style port, and cook it down. Add a couple of cinnamon sticks, cloves, orange slice, whatever. I can send you my recipe if you want. Just shoot me an email,
please.
But this Malbec, I think, is very much food friendly, and this would be one. We're back to Holly's question earlier. I would totally throw down with a steak, and I think it would be awesome. Anything on the grill, a burger, any cut of meat, and if you're vegetarian, those heartier dishes, the eggplant based or chickpea. What would be crazy, maybe crazy, would be to go with like a curry style item, like, not super spicy, but one of the milder ones with heavy coconut cream and kind of thick, hearty, and just appropriately spiced, but not too hot. Could work. You could do something simple like hummus and pita chips, I think would be great. So good question, Jess. So yes, I'll come back to Austin's question. I saw Jess's first. So
they're all coming in.
So Argentina is the country, right? The place. Malbec is a grape that actually is from France, but it was brought over, give or take 500 years ago to Argentina. And one of the reasons it does so well is that Argentina gets a massive amount of sun exposure. It's a little bit farther or closer to the equator than areas of France. Great map there throwing out. But it's on the inside of the Patagonian mountain range. So you have a super high altitude and you have the mountains kind of blocking a lot of the weather from the Atlantic. So you get a ton of sun exposure, very fresh, dry, and ripe. And Malbec sometimes has issues with like mildew-based disease during the growing season, and we don't have those problems here because it's so dry. And so that's one of the main reasons why they really pioneered the growth of this grape and are doing so well with it. And then back to Austin's question about tertiary character. So, especially those new to wine, when we start talking wine, we talk primary character, secondary character, tertiary character. So primary character is the fruit and flower stuff that you get, and that's coming from the grape itself or the fermentation process. Secondary character is coming from winemaking. So here, in the Malbec, we were talking about all the wood-oriented stuff. And so making it clear that we made choices in the winemaking to adjust the finished flavor. And then our tertiary flavors and aromas would be things that are coming from aging. So our slow controlled oxygen interaction. So some of those are things that can come out a little bit early. This wine's only 3 years old, but it's already showing a little bit of that earth, that mushroom, that leather. And those are things that we think of as tertiary that are kind of a relative of secondary character, but a way that it's showing that, okay, some of that has started to change the way that we taste. And fruit is no longer the only feature of this wine. There's other stuff happening.
So, for example, with this wine, your tertiary character would be, to me, I get a lot of vanilla as well at the end of this. As an example for one of those.
Yeah, so like baking spices, all the things really that make you think wood, and then all the stuff that's related to that. So, I mentioned mulling spices, which is a nondescript, but everyone kind of knows what I mean. Clove, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, whatever it might be, sometimes citrus. All that stuff kind of leans in to this wine and shows off that, yeah, we made a lot of choices. We took our time and we went, we went that one step further and tried to really harness those extra characteristics. And so what was I studying when I was abroad in France? So I was studying French. I actually graduated with a major in French literature. I'm probably one of the few people in the world that can read medieval French. Such a weird skill.
If you're in like one of those medieval time warp movies, you're in like good luck.
But I love the French language, and I had studied it since I was a kid. And so I went thinking I would just like perpetuate my well-known well-spokenness in French. And so becoming more fluent. And then I was also studying music at the time. Once upon a time, I wanted to be an opera singer. And so I was doing that.
Wow, I did not know that.
So now I use my French a lot when it comes to naming French places in wine and all wine-related terms that are French. But
you have really great pronunciation, so I'm not surprised. Oh, here's a question for you. Do you still sing?
I do. To my son, who is 11 months, I sing him songs all the time. And when I'm drinking occasionally, I will burst out in song. And then at Christmas time, we do Polish carols with my extended family and stuff. So usually in that venue, I'm also doing some singing, but it's limited. I belt it out in the car though. No questions asked.
Okay. So your drink of choice, if not drinking wine, and you're out at a bar singing karaoke, which I'm sure is probably a really great sight if you've ever.
Oh, once upon a time. Remember those days pre-COVID?
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm not drinking wine, I'm out at a place. It'll depend on a couple of things. One, what is on special? Two, am I like thinking cocktails or not? Right. So I love a perfect Manhattan. So a bourbon-based cocktail, but half and half sweet and dry vermouth. I also really like, I just enjoy bourbon, but I recently just discovered a Kentucky Mule. Can't get enough. So it's like a Moscow Mule, right? Which is made with vodka, but bourbon at its base. So the ginger beer, the lime, all of that. I love a great margarita. I love a great martini, or I call it a martini, but it's probably not really because it's basically just cold vodka. Um, but I like Polish vodka a lot, perhaps, obviously. So a number of different beverages depending on the day. And I like scotch, but unpeated. I'm not really a peat kind of gal.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always fun to ask. I feel like a lot of our winemakers themselves have expressed love for Corona and, light beers. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. You're outside all day and it's really hot and you want something with a lighter alcohol. You can't drink your wine because then you're going to be on the floor in 5 minutes.
Well, no, the joke is always it takes a lot of good beer to make good wine.
Yes, I have heard. Or maybe just a few Kentucky mules, apparently.
Few.
Who knows? Well, if you guys have any more questions for Kasia, please let us know. It's been so great tonight, and I hope that you guys have learned as much as I have as well. Obviously, I've taken her class, so I've learned these things, but I relearn every single time. So thank you so much for reteaching me as well. Now, do you out there remember your 5 S's on how to taste? Hopefully you guys do. Remember, the best part is the savor at the end. See? Smell, swirl, sip, and savor.
Those pretty good
sound effects. That was such an opera singer sound effects. I feel like we were about to get a song or something. Well, Kasia, I really hope that you've enjoyed yourself as much as I have, and that we're going to have you back. I see we already have a question from Joe here. When are you doing it again with us? So people want you back, so hopefully we can set it up, have you back sometime this fall. I promise we'll pick another 4 great, amazing wines to share with you. For you guys that joined us, once again, thanks so much. Kasia, we'll make sure that we get anything from you about your upcoming classes. If you guys are interested in participating in classes from the Capital Wine School, I can't give them enough kudos for really bringing a fun learning experience to the world of wine, because definitely a lot of people, even that I've met and I've taught about wine, they just think that, yeah, it might not be as fun as I think that it would be, even though, yeah, you're drinking alcohol at the end of the day and it tastes great.
Fun, I promise.
It's totally fun. I can say that from experience, even being a student in one of Kasia's classes. So definitely take a look. Like we mentioned earlier, they also have classes that aren't necessarily the certification classes, but they're more fun classes about different things. So your women in winemaking classes coming up, etc. So definitely give them a go. Check out their website, give their Facebook page a like, give DMV's Facebook page a like as well, at DMVDist, and let us know your thoughts. We have a lot of really great special guests coming up. Next week, I'll be back here with you guys on September 25th with another great guest. We do actually have Monica from Hook and Vine. We're going to be featuring 2 Santos Lima, so same as the lab we tasted tonight. Their Colossal White, which was just featured in the Washington Post last Wednesday. The Colossal Red. Oh, there we go. Wow, that was really great timing. I have like a Vanna White in the background, just right up there. The Paris Cabernet Croix du Monde Corbières. It's got a 97-point rating from Decanter. I took it out all week, and I feel like I lost a few bottles at stores because they loved it. So definitely join us next week. There are all the available retailers that carry all 4 of those wines. So go in, get your tasting sheets, get your great virtual Vino bags, reuse your bags. It's like going into Aldi and shopping. Just fill them back up with your delicious virtual Vino wines. Be on the lookout for your neckers. That's the wines we're going to feature or we've featured before. And once again, thanks so much for enjoying your Friday nights with us, spending it. Oh, there we go. And we have Lion and Dove face masks now. So if you see us out with one, just showing them off there. Be safe when you're out. Definitely, if you have to wear a face mask, support Lion and Dove as well, and DMV distributing too. And Kasia, once again, thank you so much. If you have any closing remarks for everyone, let them have it. You can show off your shirt again.
Oh yeah, thanks Austin for your nice comment about the classes. Yeah, may contain wine. This is not a sanctioned shirt. Although if you're curious about wine shirts, one of our employees at the Capital Wine School, Marcia McCall, is fantastic, and she prints a bunch of really fun wine shirts. My favorite one of hers is one that says "Wine first, worry later." I thought about wearing it tonight. I ended up with a may contain wine. Hopefully nobody's judging me for that. but you could definitely reach out to the school to try to get her information too, or check on Facebook. But that being said, please join us at a class, continue to join Virtual Vino, continue to enjoy wine and feel confident talking about it and enjoying it, and, you know, just have fun with it. And happy to have you here tonight, and hopefully you had a good time.
I can't think of how to leave tonight's show on a better note. So cheers, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you, Kasia.